Before proceeding with the formal business of meeting, I would ask Rev. Babatunde Paul Ogendebe to lead us in prayer.
Okay, can we bow, close our eyes and bow our heads in prayer? Our Father in heaven, we want to thank you for the great opportunity you've given us and these counselors to serve your purpose in our town here in Luton. And as we gathered here tonight, we gathered in the power of your name, and we ask for wisdom as the matters of governance are discussed here tonight, that your wisdom will prevail. You will give us clarity as to each item of deliberations tonight. This we ask for through the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please be seated. It is my very sad duty to report the death of former Councillor John Titmus.
Mr. Mayor, I can't hear you.
It is my very sad duty to report that the death of former Councillor John Titmus. The late Councillor John Titmus served as a councillor for Icknell Ward for 12 years from May 2003 until 2015. Does any member wish to speak? Yeah, go on, Cameron. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Deputy Mayor. I got into council in 2003, the same time as John Titmus. I found him to a very well understanding of what goes on in local politics. He was a very, very successful businessman. He knew a lot about the National Service. That was one of his little babies he liked to keep in touch with. So, you know, and the 12 years he was with us, I found him very intelligent. He used to give us some very good advice regarding what goes on in the town. And it was sorry to hear that he passed away about, his funeral was 2 days before his son got married, and which was very sad to hear. And I know it's late in the day since he died to come to the council, but because he moved out of England, we lost contact with him. But I found him to be a great councillor in the 12 years he was here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I just wanted to recognise the contribution that late Councillor Titmus has made to Luton Council as well as its residents, and I agree with Councillor Campbell. When I first got elected, I met up with Titmus, and he's not only a councillor, he was an entrepreneur, a very successful one. And having a background in pharmaceuticals, he had some word of advice which was very useful to me, and he has served the council really well. We want to pass our condolences and our heartfelt sympathies to Titmus' family and his friends. Thank you.
Thank you. I would ask the council to stand in silent tribute for 1 minute in the memory of late Councillor Titmus. Thank you. Be seated. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Council. Before we begin, would members please sit in their allocated seats, silence their mobile phones, stand up when proposing and seconding items, switch microphone on to speak and off immediately afterwards. Wear face covering unless exempt at all times when not speaking. If there is any emergency, turn left out of the council chamber, follow the green emergency exit signs to Man Town Hall entrance and assemble in the St. George's Square. Please note this meeting is being live streamed to the public. Any member of the public present are entitled to take photographs, film, audio record and report on the business held in public, or must not act in disruptive manner. If they do so, they might ask to leave. The first item of the business is to receive the minutes of the meeting of the council held in 21st February 2022 as set out on the page 1 to 5. Does the council approve the minutes and agree me to signing them as a correct record? Agree. Yeah. Any apologies? Are there any apologies to absence from the meeting? From this meeting?
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I have apologies for absence from Councillors Begum, M. Hussain, Malcolm, Mead, Petts, Simmons and Young.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, Peter Chapman, please.
Yeah. Chapman, yeah. Member, please note that voting will be by exceptions. Rather than calling out each member's name to record their vote, I will ask members to indicate if they wish to vote against a motion. If no member vote against, I will declare the item carried. The outcome will not be recorded in the minutes unless 6 members of the council indicate that they wish for this to happen in accordance with the Standing Order 20.2. Please note that I propose to take 2 items of urgent business in accordance with the Section 100B of the Local Government Act 1972. The first to be taken immediately after agenda item 10.1 on review of the political balance of membership of committee following Councillor Abbas's ceasing to be member of the council labour group. A report on this matter has been circulated around the council chamber. The second to be taken immediately after that urgent item on the moving of the resolution on the events in Ukraine. The resolution has been circulated to members by email and hard copy prior to the meeting. Please note that I attend to vary the order of the business on the agenda this evening to take agenda item 8.1, Petition Brunswick Street Car Park, immediately before agenda item 5, Fire Authority report. A member may be aware that consultation on polling place as a part of local ward boundary review is starting in summer. The matter will be reported to Administration and Regulation Committee on 5th May 2022. A briefing note has been emailed to all members of the council. Would member please read the briefing note and send any comments to Debbie Jones or Sam and the democracy team. So Chief Executive. Thank you.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, all members of the council have been circulated with a list of the items before the council this evening which fall within the ambit of section 106 of the Local Government Finance Act 1992. Any member affected should disclose the fact and refrain from voting on any question relating to those items. Mr. Deputy Mayor, no section 106 disclosures have been received.
Mr. Mayor, could I declare an interest in Brunswick Car Park as a director of the
Mr Deputy Mayor, I have received the following disclosures of interest. Councillors Burnett, Councillor Goding, Councillor Shaw and Councillor Pedersen in relation to item 8.1, the petition on Brunswick Street car park, as they are directors of Vauxhall Homes. And additionally, Councillor Aslam Khan, who has a personal and prejudicial interest in item 8.1, petition on Brunswick Street car park, as the petitioner is related to him. I'd ask those members now to leave the chamber.
Mr Mayor, I think I may have to declare also an interest in the petition. I actually signed it and I live in Hightown. Do I have to leave or do I stay? What?
Councillor Keynes, I don't think that you need to leave for having signed the petition. Yes.
I will now take agenda item 8.1, petition on Brunswick Street car park. I call upon Councillor Rob Rose to move the recommendation. Okay.
I don't think I've got the papers for that. I do apologise. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Okay. Prior to moving the recommendation, I invite the lead petitioner to address the council meeting. Thank you.
So, which one is it? Mr. Shaw, yeah. So, Mr. Shaw, you are invited to address the council meeting on the Brunswick Street car park petition. You will have 5 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Chair.
The monitoring officer will indicate when you have 1 minute left.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're well. Dear Mr. Chair and presiding board members, my name is Mohammed Shahid, and I'm the Hightown Business and Community Association representative and the lead petitioner. Today, I will be speaking on behalf of the Hightown community. Our main issue: I am here to forward the Hightown community's proposal for the reinstatement of Brunswick Street car park to the public. In support of this proposal, we have gathered over 1,400 signatures, a petition supporting the matter to date. We started to submit the petition from Monday the 29th of November 2021 to stop any attempts of the car park being transferred or legal documents being signed. However, it appears from 7th of December 2021, a deed of surrender, a deed of variation were put in place by Luton Borough Council. Why? Point 1, matter at hand. Brunswick Street car park has been crucial to customers and business owners for over the past 16 years that I have worked in Hightown. The council's removal of 28 public parking spaces in Hightown has been without a proper consultation. Point 2, the effect on local businesses. Hightown is home to a vast array of diverse communities, including the Methodist Church, that has also been affected by the removal of 28 parking spaces from the Brunswick Street car park. Also, there are over 12 self-employed businesses that are run by women who rely on the car park to provide for their customers convenience. Use, removal of this parking space has dramatically affected their businesses. Point 3, the effect on the residents. The removal of these parking spaces has severely affected the disabled community, as there is no parking spaces for disabled people within the Brunswick Street car park. Elderly people cannot walk such distances to suggested car parks. By the council, it is unpleasant inconvenience for their daily lives. Parents with prams who again rely on being able to park closer to shops they are visiting. Traders of Hightown now must park further away, which is both time-consuming and deterrent for the potential businesses. Point 4, the community must not be ignored. The whole Hightown community has joined together to tackle this issue. We live in a democracy and the majority speak powers into existence. Surely the needs of minority, the leaseholders, should not outweigh the majority, which is in Hightown community. Brunswick Street car park is the final car park that was available to the public, but now is being traded away for Taylor Street car park in order to build council and private housing. A public car park is being given away by the very representative who's supposed to help and serve the community, not to cause further detriment to their daily lives of the people. Point 5, car parks usefulness. Now please, could you refer to Appendix 5, 6.1. I've left an envelope. Brunswick Street Car Park Financial Review by Luton Borough Council. And I will justify those details to you now. In the Council's agenda, a final financial review has been conducted on the income of the Brunswick Street Car Park, pay and display of the recent years. The figures show negative correlation in annual income of the years 2020 to 2022. However, there was an increase in the annual revenues in the years 2018-2019. Data received by Parking Services, the annual income in the years 2018-2017 was £17,434. This shows before the pandemic, the Brunswick Street car park was being used regularly. The figures have failed to take into consideration 2018, no business parking permits were issued, losing an annual income £594 per permit. Again, these figures are confirmed by the Parking Services. Figures has also failed to indicate the pay and display machine,
Mr. Shah, you've got 1 minute left, yeah?
which issues the tickets, 15 occasion, either it had to be reset or new parts. That totaled to 47 days in that the machine was out of order in the last 4 years. Hence, I believe the Brunswick Street Car Park Financial Review figures should be discarded. So the real question is, why the council prevent the use of the public car park for the local community, dividing the business community by putting Taylor Street businesses in direct conflict with the Hightown community? Please, you must allow me to summarize. Point 6, equality implication. The council has a statutory requirement under the public sector equality duty arising from the Equalities Act 2020 to pay due regards when carrying out their functions. So I therefore request the council to provide evidence how this statutory legal requirement was met when agreeing the removal of the car park space in question. I also request the council to confirm whether an equality impact
Mr. Shah,
assessment
time is over now.
was
Please be
completed,
seated.
presented to the decision-making body,
The time
and
is over
considered
now.
as part
Please be seated. Thank you.
With due respect, sir, this is very important, and you must allow me to conclude
Time
this
is over
matter.
now. Thank you. Be seated, please.
Would you let me just go to the conclusion, please? It is very important, if you don't mind.
Please be
There are
seated.
people
Thank
here
you.
who would
The
need to
time
know
is over
this.
now. Please be seated. Thank you.
Chair, please, if you don't mind.
Thank you.
Would you councillors agree or not?
Sir. So I now call upon Councillor Rabdosh to move the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Lead Petitioner. Before I do move the amendment, Deputy Mayor, I just would like to inform you that we intend to put an amendment through when you ask for new amendments, and I would like you to call me so I can explain to the members what that amendment will be. Thank you. The Council understands the concerns of the petitioner. No one likes to feel that they're losing a facility, even where that facility may not be fully used. Historical financial information shows that the original car park was underutilised. CCTV footage shows that even the reduced space available is rarely used to capacity. The Council faced the decision between retaining an underused car park or enabling development of badly needed quality homes. The Council is grateful to those Hightown businesses that gave up their rights to parking spaces in Taylor Street to enable the development to happen. It would not be fair or reasonable to ask them to do more. We know that Luton faces a shortage of good quality family homes, particularly those that are affordable. Some would call it an emergency. This development helps towards meeting that need while supporting the regeneration of Hightown. The Foxhall Homes development brings a whole new residential community to the very doorsteps of Hightown's business district. Surely that must be a great opportunity. The petitioners asked for an alternative parking to be made available. There are already alternatives available at Hitchin Road and Wenlock Street, a very short distance indeed from Hightown. Before I finish, I'd just like to go through 6 key points, if I may. There is financial evidence indicating that the original car park was not well used. There is now CCTV evidence showing that the new public car park is rarely at capacity. The proposed development of the former Taylor Street car park cannot proceed without the changes to the car parking arrangements that the petitioner is opposing. The proposed development consists of 30 plus family-sized homes, including significant proportion of affordable housing. The proposed development, consisting as it does of high-quality family homes, sets a benchmark for the local area in terms of quality, size, and meets all of the local planning authority requirements. Maintaining the car park arrangements as they were would effectively bring an end to any hopes of developing a high-quality housing scheme and adversely affect the potential regeneration of the Hightown area. I move the following revised recommendations to full council. That full council note the petitioner's concerns, that having considered the petition, the evidence on use and the significant benefits of the proposed regeneration scheme that this parking charge enables, that full council resolves to reject the petition. Thank you. I'd like to call for an amendment. Thank you.
Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Okay. Are there any questions?
I would like to propose an amendment, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
It's questions, not amendments. Not amendment, it's questions. Any questions?
Nope, not at this point.
Just sure this is not from public. Are there any amendments? Yeah, Rob?
Yes, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I have an amendment.
Rob is going first, yeah, then.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I just want to introduce myself to the people of the gallery because I'm the portfolio holder for highways and parking, just so you know who's doing this amendment. When I became portfolio holder, my predecessor, Paul Castleman, had in place a Hightown car parking review to take place. I've carried on that commitment and we're looking to do that now in the new financial year very shortly. So my amendment is, as part of the Hightown review scheduled this year, Council will request the officers to seek to identify and mark out as short-term pay and display an additional 10 spaces either on Hightown Road, on the adjoining streets, Brunswick Street, Duke Street, Burr Street and Cross Street or even Back Street. We will be looking to consult with the businesses, the residents and everybody of Hightown. So that's an amendment I want to put through today. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I rise on a point of standing order. Could someone explain to us, please, exactly what on earth we're being asked to vote for? We first have an amended recommendation. Now we have a further amendment coming from the portfolio holder. Could we have it in writing, please, so that we can see exactly what we're voting for?
Seconded, Mr. Mayor. Right, sorry.
Rob, you want to speak?
Seconded, reserve the right.
Basically, we're just trying to make a resolution here for the people of Hightown. That's what we're trying to do. That's my job, and that's what I'm trying to do. Thank you.
It may be very well for the people of Hightown, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The rest of us haven't got a clue what we're being asked to vote for. Please, can we have it in writing?
suggest we're going to go pause for a few minutes until Debbie come back.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
I can't hear you, Mr Deputy Mayor.
So
What did you
Debbie's
say,
coming
please?
back in writing, so give us about a few minutes here. We're going to pause for a few minutes.
You might also like to take into account the second point, which is that my colleague, Councillor Wynne, was first to suggest that he had an amendment to make.
He wasn't, so Rob was first.
Just for the interest of members of the public, the portfolio holder has tabled an amendment to the recommendation that he was proposing. The Democratic Services Manager has just gone to type that amendment up so that the members of the council are clear on what they're being asked to vote on. Debbie's just gone to do that, so there'll be a pause for a few minutes while she does that and then prints out copies for all members.
Thank you.
If I could suggest, Mr Mayor, you might want to deal with Councillor Wynne's amendment while you're waiting.
Oh, thank you.
A point of order, maybe Councillor Wynne has actually also tabled or going to table amendment. Whilst we are waiting for the amendment coming, we can deal with this first.
No, it's too late.
Under the Constitution, the amendments must be tabled in order, and in the portfolio holder's opening remarks, he made it very clear on 2 occasions that he was going to table an amendment to the drafted recommendation. So I absolutely respect the fact that Councillor Wynne has got an amendment also, but it needs to be on the substantive motion which the council needs to opine on. So, and just for members of the public, what's going to happen is the amended motion will get distributed. That then becomes the motion that's on the table. That will then be discussed, and if it is accepted, that then becomes a substantive motion. So the motion that's then on the table for any further amendment from Councillor Wynne first and any members following that. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. So for member of publics, yeah, so as a part of High Town parking review scheduled this year, council, as a part of High Town parking review scheduled this year, council request officers to seek to identify and mark out as a short-term pay and display parking an additional 10 spaces either on High Town Road on the adjoining street, Brunswick Street, Duke Street, Borough Street, and Cross Street, or on Back Street. Is the amendment seconded?
Seconded, Mr. Mayor. Mr.
Is
Deputy
the amendment
Mayor.
seconded?
So it's seconded.
Yeah, seconded, yeah, thank you. Now I call upon Councillor Robb to speak to the amendments.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. The reason I made that amendment is because we are doing a review on Hightown parking this year. It is a commitment that we've made to the ward councillors, and we want to work with the businesses to try and find a viable option, an alternative that you will find acceptable. And one of the things that we're looking to do is what we've mentioned in the amendment. So open the door for business to work with you to try and find this alternative option, and we will consult with you on any options that we consider. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers to the amendment?
Question?
David?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, come on, let's be honest about it. What a flipping shambles. If the Labour Party can't organise themselves better than this, it's hardly surprising that the number of councillors is reducing the way it is at the moment. I'm going to ask my Liberal Democrat colleagues to support the amendment because it does at least introduce some sort of compensation, if you like, for the lost Brunswick Street places. But it's not a sufficient answer, but I'm asking my Liberal Democrat colleagues to support it purely on the basis that it does make the present situation very slightly less bad. Thank you.
Councillor Campbell?
Question, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I see you brought this amendment. Can you tell us the number of car park spaces this will create, please?
Well, I think it says 10. Yes, 10.
Councillor Ben?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I will come back to my amendment in a moment, but I'd like to ask the portfolio holder, though, first, how the report can be correct, and if the report is correct, why are you taking these measures that you suggested? I agree with Councillor Franks that it is a mitigation, but if this mitigation is necessary, then there is no way that the report that I have read can be correct as well.
Totally disagree. The report that you've got in front of you is totally accurate. What I'm doing is saying on the Hightown Review, we want to work with people in Hightown to find alternative viable options. There's nothing wrong with the report. It's totally accurate. Okay? So we just want to work with alternative viable options. They keep saying you gave the car park away. Members over there sat on the development control panel that gave permission to these homes. So don't keep looking at us saying we gave it away, because members over there sat on development control and also gave permission for these homes. Thank you.
Right, I'm just going to remind the member of public, so this is the meeting in public, but this is not public meeting. So if you carry on like that, you'll be removed. You're asked to leave. So if you're going to carry on like that, you will ask to leave. So now I call upon the seconder of the amendments to speak, Ali.
Thank you. I'll keep it short. I just want to thank the lead petitioner for coming here today and speaking. I understand that the last couple of years has been very difficult for businesses and people alike. And I understand the lead petitioners and the business owners in Hightown, their concerns around losing business because of this car park. And I do hope that with this amendment, sourcing the additional 10 spaces and the review in Hightown that will happen in terms of parking can help us work together to move forward and continue improving Hightown and making it a good place for us to work and live. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So the amendment is before the Council. All those who are in favour, please show their hands. Yeah. All those against, please show their hands. So the motion is carried. The motion is carried. Thank you.
So you now need to go back to, are there any further amendments?
Are there any further amendments?
Mr Deputy Mayor, there is. I'd ask, if I may, for help from my colleagues putting out some of the slips so that you can see what the amendment is. Should be enough.
So now I call upon Councillor Wynne to put the amendments.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. This amendment is really a very simple one. I have spent a lot of time and trouble looking at the area in some detail and all of the car parks that are mentioned in the reports. I am concerned that the car parks are in fact for people who are having walking difficulties, as indeed I am myself at the moment, and that they are not in any way as convenient as the car park spaces that have been lost. However, looking at the other car parks is the reason for this amendment. And my amendment should be followed. It goes after the word report in the recommendations to add the words and urgently take action to make the alternative car parks in Hitchin Road and Wenlock Street attractive and safe to use. They are neither attractive nor safe at the moment, and the activities after dark in particular on some of those alternative car parks is very unsatisfactory, and I don't believe that allows them to be considered as a suitable replacement for the lost spaces. And that's my amendment, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wynne. Is the amendment seconded?
Seconded, and reserve the right to speak.
So, are there any speakers to the amendment?
Yep.
Councillor Ali,
I just want to say thank you for
please
this.
stand up.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, thank you for this amendment. I was speaking to a business owner recently about when we were discussing this, about the other car parks that are available, and yes, so one of the business owners, she did mention to me that one of her customers came to Wenlock Street car park, and she was attacked. And I've seen some of the papers here about the stats of crime. So yes, I think we do need to work to make the current available car parks safer to use. Thank you.
I now call upon the second amendment to speak. Steve Moore.
I just want to thank you for the amendment, and I will ask my colleagues to accept it. Thank you.
I see. So amendment is before the council. All those in favour, please show the hands. All those against, please show their hands. So the motion is carried. Are there any further amendments?
Do you want me to explain to the members of the public?
So
Mr Deputy Mayor, thank you. So just for members of the public, for your reference, what's just happened is the original motion that was tabled by the portfolio holder was accepted. An amendment was then put forward by a member of the opposition. That also was accepted. That then becomes the substantive motion, and that's therefore the motion that the council has overwhelmingly supported. And that wording we'll put on the website tomorrow morning so everyone's clear about what the council has just decided. Thank you very much. So just to add to that, the amendments have been accepted. We'll now go through the process of voting on the substantive motion, which is the motion that's been twice amended. So amended first by Councillor Roach and then amended second by Councillor Wynne, and that's what the Mayor will now put before the Council.
Does any member wish to speak to the motion? Yeah. The motion is before council. Does any member vote against the proposal? The motion is carried. That concludes the item on Brunswick Street Car Park petition. If any petitioner present at the meeting wish to leave the council chamber, please do so. Next page, yeah. So I will now return to the order of the business as set out on the council agenda. I call upon Councillor Yasmin Wahid to present the report of the Bedfordshire Fire and Rescue Authority as set out on the page 6 to 15. Councillor.
Thank you. Mr Deputy Mayor, I present these two reports of Bedfordshire Fire and Rescue Authority, and on page 9 to 15 the information bulletin of the Bedfordshire Fire and Rescue Service.
Thank you, Councillor. Is the motion seconded?
I second that, Councillor Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Does the Council receive the report? Yeah. If any member object, please indicate. Otherwise, I will assume all members are in agreement. With regard to the agenda item 6, there are no written questions this evening for the Bedfordshire Fire and Rescue Authority. The next item is agenda 7.1, pay policy statement 22 and 23. I invite Councillor Akbar to remove the recommendation. Councillor Akbar?
Excuse me, Mr Deputy Mayor, I'm still finding great difficulty in hearing what you're saying, and that is detracting from the meeting from my perspective.
Right, so let me repeat again, yeah? With regard to agenda item 6, there are no written questions this evening for the Bedfordshire Fire and Rescue Authority. So the next item, agenda item 7.1, pay policy statement 2022 and 2023. I invite Councillor Akbar to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I move the recommendation set out at paragraph 2.1 and 2.2 on page 16.
Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Mr Mayor.
Are there any questions? Councillor Moore.
On section 5.9 of the appendix.
Can you, Councillor Moore, can you stand up, please?
Okay. Well, that's easier said than done for me. On paragraph 5.9 of the appendix, when we're talking about the foundation living wage, which in 510 is re-upped, it talks about having to go through an annual review in order to for it to be reviewed annually. Is that legally required for it to be reviewed annually?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Are there any amendments? Does any member wish to speak to the motion? The motion is before Council. Does any member vote against the proposal? The motion is carried. The next item agenda within item 7.2, gender pay gap. I invite Councillor Akbar to move the recommendation.
I move the recommendations set out paragraph 2 and point 1 and point 2 on page 30.
Is the motion seconded?
Seconded, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Are there any questions? Are there any amendments? Does any member wish to speak to the motion? The motion is before the Council. Does any member vote against the proposal? Motion is carried. Thank you. The next item is agenda item 9.1, revised petition scheme. I call upon Councillor Aslam Khan to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Petition and Representation Board, at a meeting held on 14th of March 2022, suggested further revision to the proposed revised petition scheme in relation to qualifying addresses. A revised report and appendix has been circulated to members. I move the revised recommendation as set out on paragraph 2 of the updated report, that the revised petition scheme attached at Appendix A to the replacement report, containing further revision to address the suggestions made by the Petition and Representation Board on 14th of March 2022, be approved and updated.
Thank you. Thank you. Is the motion seconded?
Seconded in the reserve round, Mr Mayor.
Are there any questions? Are there any amendments?
Yes, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Yes, Councillor.
I'll just wait for somebody to pass around the note. Yeah. Right. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. The proposal is really just for us to take it back to Petitions Board, just to bottom this out. I, for one, as a civil servant, cannot use my works address or postcode number to sign a petition. So we need to look at some way that we can allow people whose bosses would not allow them. I'm sure nobody in the town hall would be allowed to use the town hall's postcode to sign a petition. So we need to look at something. I have had a quick look on some of our neighbouring councils. Hertfordshire County Council simply says anyone who lives or works in the area of Hertfordshire County Council. It doesn't give specifics about having to have postcodes. So it may be that we need, as a board, to liaise with these other councils to see how they go about it. That's all that. I thank actually the officers who came up with this after my questions about it at the meeting, and I just think we should just look at it a bit further before we come to a final decision. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, we accept the revised
Is the
petition.
amendment seconded? You accepted, yeah? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, can I ask, has this been accepted then? So, oh, so I was going to say something, but I shan't want to now.
No, it's been accepted.
Yeah.
So we now need to vote.
Yeah, it's over there. Does any member wish to speak to the motion? Does any member wish to speak to the motion? Amended motion, yeah. Motion is before council. Does any member vote against the proposal? The motion is carried. Amended motion. The amended motion is carried.
Sorry?
The amended motion is carried. The next item is agenda item 9.2, draft calendar of the meeting for 22-23. I call upon Councillor Aslam Khan to move the recommendation.
Mr Mayor, I move the recommendation set out at paragraph 2 on page 58.
Is the motion seconded? Are there any questions? Are there any amendments? Does any member wish to speak to the motion? The motion is before council. Does any member vote against the proposal? Motion is carried. The next item is the agenda item 9.3, change of membership of taxi and private hire licensing committee. I call upon Councillor Aslam Khan to move the recommendation.
Mr Mayor, I move that Councillor Mahmood Hussain fill the vacancy on the taxi and private hire licensing committee.
Is the motion is seconded? Are there any questions? Are there any amendments? Does any member wish to speak to the motion? The motion before the council, does any member vote against the proposal? Motion is carried. The next item, agenda item 10.1, revision of the part 9 of the Constitution Code of Conduct for the members. I call upon Councillor Aslam to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the recommendation set out at paragraph 2 on page 76.
Is the motion seconded? Is there any questions? Are there any amendments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
David?
In a second, I'll be with you.
Recycled paper.
Call David, Councillor. I call upon.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The purpose of the amendment is to seek to fill some really quite serious gaps in the process the Council currently uses for following up and responding to complaints by members of the public against members of the Council. Our recent experience has been that when a complaint reaches a stage of investigation, no investigation actually takes place. What happens is either the monitoring officer or someone appointed by the monitoring officer reviews the paperwork and decides on the basis of the paperwork that has been circulated whether or not a breach of the Code of Conduct has been proved. What this does is it quite simply moves the burden of proof from the investigating officer to the complainant. Now, if your house is burgled or you get punched on the nose and you complain to the police don't ask you to conduct an investigation. They don't ask you to come up with the evidence. They take statements from you and they follow that up. And if investigation is required, the police do the investigation. At the moment, if there is an investigation, it is carried out usually by someone who is more than familiar with the details of the complaint, who has been involved in processing the dealing with the complaint from the very beginning. And clearly, that person ought not to be the key investigating officer. The investigating officer ought to be someone who is completely independent and who has no knowledge at all of the complaint prior to them being asked to investigate it. On that basis, they can review the paperwork and interview the people that they feel they need to interview. they might even take suggestions on who they ought to interview from the complainant or indeed from the member against whom the complaint has been made. There is, at least in that way, a reasonable chance that a proper investigation might take place and a sensible outcome might be produced. The second small problem here is in the hearings section, where it doesn't actually make it clear. I'm sure it was intended, but it doesn't make it clear that the investigating officer's report will be provided to the adjudication panel. I guess that was what was intended, but it doesn't actually say so, and I think it should say so. So I formally move the amendment and ask Council to support it wholeheartedly.
Is the amendment seconded?
Seconded, Mr. Mayor, reserve the right.
Okay.
Reserve the right.
I call upon Councillor Aslam to speak to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What we're proposing is a code of conduct which is in line with national guidance. It's fair, transparent, and very thorough. I can't see a reason why we should be any different, because everything that Frank has talked about has been thought through with this code of conduct, and what we're suggesting is good, robust, fair, and transparent. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers to the motion amendments? I call upon Councillor Tom Shaw to speak. Up. Yeah. Right, no problem. Councillor.
Yes, Mr. Deputy Mayor, we're not complaining about the code of conduct. It's the investigation of complaints that we think needs more robust wording and to be considered. Not the code of conduct. The code of conduct we are not complaining about. It is the way complaints are looked at and investigated, and that there should be a proper investigation officer appointed who has had nothing to do with the complaint to start with and can make, therefore, an open response to the adjudication panel should it come to that point. That's what this amendment is about, not about the code of conduct. The code of conduct is not the issue here.
Councillor Tom.
For the simple reason, if the complaint's a non-fixatious complaint, it's only a small complaint, it gets handled sometimes by the officers, and the officers do, but always taking independent advice. If it's a serious complaint, then an independent investigator is already appointed. So we already do what they're asking us to do here anyway. Even for the small fixatious complaints, what some people sometimes put in, an independent person looks at that complaint anyway. So what you're asking for, we already do. We're following the robust guidelines what are laid out here is good enough. But if people will never stop people putting in small, moany complaints because they've been upset by someone from an opposite political party, they're still going to put those complaints in. So my view is what we've put down there, what's being laid out is adequate, does the job, and it follows the guidelines. We don't need to do any more, so I hope the Council rejects this amendment.
The amendment is before the Council. All those who in favour, please show the hands. All those against, please show the hands. The motion is lost. Are there any further amendments? No, thank you. No, that's all right. You have to wait 12 months. So it is back. Does any member wish to speak to the motion? motion is before the council. Does any member vote against the proposal?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Do you want to speak to the motion?
Mr. Mayor, I have indicated that we wish to vote against the motion.
So you have to call everybody else for the name. As a vote against has been shown, member will be asked to cast their vote individually.
Councillor Abid.
Councillor Abid?
4. Councillor Driss?
4.
Councillor Agbali?
4.
Councillor Ahmed?
4.
Councillor Akbar?
4.
Councillor Ali?
Against.
Councillor U Ali?
4.
Councillor Bridgen?
Against.
Councillor Campbell? Councillor D Chapman?
Against.
Councillor Chowdhury?
4.
Councillor Donnellan? Councillor Franks?
Against.
Councillor Goding?
4.
Councillor A Hussain?
4.
Councillor J I Hussain? 4. Councillor J Hussain?
4.
Councillor S Hussain? 4. Councillor Javid?
4.
Councillor Keynes? Councillor Kursid?
4.
Councillor Khan?
4.
Councillor Lovell?
4.
Councillor K Malik?
4.
Councillor T Malik?
4.
Councillor Masood?
4.
Councillor Moles? Councillor Moore?
Against.
Councillor Nichols?
4.
Councillor Pedersen?
Against.
Councillor Roche?
4.
Councillor S Salim?
4.
Councillor T Salim?
Against. 4. 4. Definitely 4. Sorry.
Councillor Shaw? Councillor Skeppelhorn?
Against.
Councillor Taylor?
4.
Councillor Underwood?
Against.
Councillor Wahid?
4.
Councillor Wynne?
Against.
Motion is carried. So, the next matter is the first item of the urgent business, a review of the political balance and membership of the committee following Councillor Assange ceasing to be member of the Council's Labour Group. A report on this matter has been circulated around the Council chamber. I call upon Councillor Aslim Khan to move the recommendation.
Mr. Mayor, I move the recommendation set out in paragraph 2 on the report circulated around the council chamber.
Is the motion seconded? Are there any questions? Are there any amendments? Does any member wish to speak to the motion? David.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I won't detain you long on this. Just to say, it would be helpful if, when the decision has been made and passed on to the Democratic Services Manager, if members of the council could be advised of the changes.
Yep. Yeah, we will do that. Thank you.
The motion is before the council. Does any member vote against the proposal? Motion is carried. The next item is the second item of the urgent business, inviting council to move the resolution regarding the Ukraine. I call upon Councillor Aslim Khan to move the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The horrific daily news and updates of the impact of the conflict arising from the illegal invasion of Ukraine by the armed forces of Russia continues to shock our community. The United Nations estimate that around 3 million people have fled Ukraine since Russia's invasion began last month. Many people have been seeking refuge in surrounding and neighboring communities in Eastern Europe with strong connections to Luton. The Council unequivocally condemns the aggressive action of the Russian government in this invasion and the violence and suffering that has been unleashed on the people of Ukraine. We encourage and support our MPs in their efforts of trying to ensure that UK government does everything that they can in their powers to de-escalate the conflict by all means available. Luton has always been welcoming and answers a call for help from anyone in need and stands by those who are persecuted and vulnerable, reflecting on the welcoming and compassionate nature of our community and our status as city sanctuary. Whilst the plight of the Ukrainian people is understandably receiving immediate attention and support, people continue to suffer from the devastating conflict and humanitarian crisis around the globe. The rights of all refugees and those seeking sanctuary in the UK and Luton need to be respected, enacted by all responsible authorities. The Council commits to work with our community and our local partners, as well as national government, to do all we need to respond to requests for urgent support from the people of a devastated Ukraine in arriving in Luton as part of National Homes for Ukraine, a program that our community and the Resilience Forum's led initiatives which are supporting the Ukrainian people home and abroad. Mr. Mayor, I move this Council resolution and ask the Council to note and the resolution is before the members. Thank you.
Is the resolution seconded?
I'm happy to second it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, David. Are there any questions? Are there any amendments? Does any member wish to speak to the resolution? Does any member wish to speak? Campbell, do you want to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I must congratulate you for this because I don't work anymore, so I see a lot of what's going on in Ukraine, and I think it's one of the most disgusting atrocities to happen. Mr. Putin is probably going to start using chemical weapons when he used in Syria and Georgia. So what I can't understand is why the United Nations don't send the blue helmet people in as peacekeepers, because we've done it before. I know it's a difficult situation, but I don't know what else our government can do to stop it, bar sanctions. And I really appreciate what you've done, and I watch it every day. The destruction of the people. It's the breadbasket of Europe, Ukraine. And he's destroying it to try and go back to the USSR, the old system. In those days, America used to supply Russia with grain and wheat because they could not grow their own. And he is taking them right back to it. Russia has killed 30 million people in Pittsburgh, St. Petersburg. They kill their own people. And this is a disgrace, but I don't know what we can do except go in there and don't be afraid to do it, because what is happening is an absolute disgrace.
The resolution is before the council. Does any member vote against this proposal? The resolution is carried. A meeting of the Taxi and Private Hire Licensing Committee will be held immediately following this meeting. Would those members please remain in their place? That concludes the business of this meeting. For all other members, thank you